I thought I inherited my grandfather's house. Then a woman I'd never seen before walked in with the real will. Inheritance is supposed to feel like closure. A final chapter. A clean handover of everything left behind. But what happened to me felt nothing like that. It felt like someone rewrote my life, using a document I never signed. And the moment a stranger walked into my grandfather's house, holding a second will, I realized I hadn't inherited anything at all. Not even the truth. My name is Natalie Brooks, I am 30 years old, and I live in Denver, USA. And this is the story of how I believed I inherited my grandfather's house, until a woman I had never seen before destroyed that belief in under 10 minutes. My grandfather was everything to me growing up. Stable, quiet, the kind of man who fixed broken things without complaining. His house was my safe place. Wooden floors, old clocks, a garden that always smelled like rain. When he passed away, I wasn't surprised by the grief. I was surprised by how quickly everything became legal. Lawyers, documents, calls I didn't understand. And then one simple statement: "You are the sole heir to the property." It felt unreal but comforting. Like something was finally going right after loss. I moved into the house a month later. It already felt like mine. The furniture still smelled like him. The kitchen still had his old coffee mugs. Everything was exactly where memory left it. But there was one thing that bothered me. A locked drawer in his study. No key. No explanation. Just a lock that didn't match the rest of the house. I asked the lawyer about it. He said it was probably personal items. Nothing important. Just sentimental clutter. So I ignored it. Until the day I decided to clean the attic. That was the day everything changed. Dusty boxes. Old photographs. Family records. Nothing unusual at first. Just history. Then I found a folder labeled, "Legal copies do not open unless necessary." Curiosity is a dangerous thing in quiet houses. I opened it anyway. Inside were property documents, bank statements, and something that made my stomach tighten instantly. A second name listed beside mine. Not a relative I knew. Not a close family member. A woman. I stared at the paper for a long time, thinking it must be a mistake. A typo. Something outdated. But then I heard the front door open downstairs. Footsteps. Slow. Confident. Not hesitant like a visitor. Like someone returning home. I walked down carefully. And that's when I saw her, standing in my grandfather's living room, holding a thick folder, looking completely calm, like she belonged there more than I did. "I think you're living in my house," she said. Not angry. Not emotional. Just factual. My body froze instantly. "Excuse me," I said. She opened the folder and pulled out a document, and placed it on the table. "My name is on the original will," she said. "This house was never transferred legally to you." I laughed once nervously. "That's impossible." But she slid the paper toward me. And I saw it. A signature I had never seen before. A date that contradicted everything I was told. And my grandfather's name at the bottom. But it wasn't the same will I had seen before. This one was older. Official. Stamped. Filed. My hands started shaking slightly. "No," I whispered, "I inherited this house." She tilted her head slightly. "You inherited what someone told you inherited." That sentence landed harder than I expected. Because suddenly I wasn't arguing about property anymore. I was arguing about truth. I called the lawyer immediately. On speaker. my voice shaking slightly. There's another will, I said. There's a woman here claiming ownership. A long silence on the other end. Too long. Then the lawyer said something that made my stomach drop. There shouldn't be a second will. I looked at the woman immediately. She didn't react. She already knew what he was about to say. But the lawyer continued slowly. There is an older filing on record. It was never processed publicly. My world shifted slightly. Why not? I asked. Another pause. Then, because it was challenged internally by your grandfather himself. I turned back toward the woman. Who are you? I asked again. She exhaled slowly, finally showing something other than calm. Sadness. I was his legal daughter, she said quietly. The words didn't make sense at first. What do you mean, legal daughter? I asked. She looked away for a moment, then back at me, and said something that changed everything again. I was adopted before you were born. My throat tightened. Then why am I not in that will? That's when she said the line that broke the entire situation open. Because your grandfather removed everything after I left. Silence. Heavy silence. I sat down slowly without realizing it. Because suddenly this wasn't inheritance anymore. It was history. Broken history. You're saying he erased you? I asked. She nodded. From everything except the original document. Then she looked at me more directly. And you were never supposed to inherit it alone. That sentence changed everything. Because suddenly the house wasn't just property. It was a conflict. A leftover argument between people who were no longer alive to defend their choices. And I was standing in the middle of it. The room felt smaller after she said it. You were never supposed to inherit it alone. Those words didn't just challenge ownership. They challenged reality. I stood up again, trying to steady myself. That doesn't make sense, I said. My lawyer confirmed I was the only heir. The woman didn't react immediately. Instead, she placed both versions of the documents side by side on the table. Like she was preparing evidence for a case that had been waiting years to reopen. Your lawyer only saw the updated filing, she said calmly. He didn't see the dispute record. My stomach tightened. Dispute record. She nodded. And for the first time her calm cracked slightly. Not into anger. Into exhaustion. Yes, she said, because your grandfather changed his will twice. Silence followed. Even the house felt like it stopped moving. She continued. The first version included me. She tapped the older document. I was his legally adopted granddaughter. He raised me for years. My mind struggled to process that. So you're saying I'm not the only grandchild? She shook her head slowly. You were never the only one. Then came the part that shifted everything again. But I left. I frowned. Left where? Her voice lowered. Left the family after a legal fight with him. She glanced around the house. Like the walls still remembered. He removed me from the updated will after that, she said. But he never destroyed the original one. My chest tightened again. So you came back for this? I asked. She looked at me directly now. No, she said. I came back because I didn't know you existed. That hit differently. Because suddenly this wasn't rivalry. It wasn't greed. It was ignorance meeting inheritance. My phone buzzed suddenly. It was the lawyer again. I put it on speaker immediately. I need clarification, I said, right now. The lawyer sighed. This is complicated. I could hear papers flipping on the other end. There are indeed 2 wills, he admitted. But only one was legally validated after probate review. The woman stepped closer. That means nothing, she said. It was challenged unfairly. The lawyer hesitated. Your grandfather himself requested removal of one beneficiary due to family conflict. I looked at her instantly. So he removed you? She nodded slowly. But not completely. The lawyer continued. The final version leaves the property solely to Natalie Brooks. I exhaled slightly. Relief mixing with confusion. So I do inherit it. But the woman shook her head immediately. That's not the full clause, she said. I turned to the lawyer again. What aren't you telling me? A long pause. Then the answer came. The house was left to you under one condition. My heart slowed. What condition? Silence. Then, shared guardianship must be established with the previously removed beneficiary if they ever return. I froze, slowly turned toward her, and suddenly everything clicked. This isn't about ownership, I whispered. It's about control. She nodded. For both of us. For the first time, she stepped closer and softened her voice. I didn't come to take your home, she said. I came to understand why I was erased from it. That word again. Erased. Not removed. Not excluded. Erased. I looked around the house slowly. The familiar walls suddenly felt different. Like they were holding secrets in every corner. And if I refuse, I asked. She didn't hesitate. Then the estate goes into legal suspension. My stomach dropped. So nobody gets it. She nodded. Until the dispute is resolved properly. The lawyer added quietly. That is correct. Silence stretched between us. Not hostile. Not friendly. Just unfinished. Then she said something unexpected. I don't want the house alone. I frowned. Then what do you want? She looked around the room. Then back at me. And said, truth. That single word shifted everything again. Because suddenly this wasn't about inheritance. It wasn't about property. It was about a family decision made long before either of us had a say in it. And my grandfather, who I thought had left me everything, had actually left behind a puzzle. One I was never meant to solve alone. Over the next days we dug deeper together. Bank records, old legal filings, family correspondence, and slowly a pattern emerged. My grandfather hadn't chosen one heir over the other. He had been trying to reconcile two lives he couldn't merge. Two relationships. Two versions of family. Two women connected to the same legacy. And in the end, he failed to decide. So he left it to law. Not love. One evening, standing in the hallway of that house, she finally said it clearly. We were both meant to inherit it, she said. But only if we could stand it together. I looked at her carefully. And if we can't. She met my eyes. Then it burns in paperwork forever. That night I realized something strange. The real inheritance wasn't the house. It was the choice. And for the first time since all this started, I wasn't thinking about losing something. I was thinking about what it would take to keep it. Together.